Scott Leese, how can you be in Austin and wear a pray for surf hat, man? You have to explain that right off the bat.
First of all, that's all I can do is pray for surf since I can't get near the ocean.
Uh, hey, well
But
there's that surf place up in Waco, right?
yeah,
It's some like super famous thing, isn't it?
yeah, Waco Surf Park. Yeah, it's about two hours away from me.
Yeah.
Shockingly, I've never been there.
Oh,
Every time I've had the idea to go there, it's like massively booked out, and I'm not
yeah.
good at planning things in advance, so I haven't made it yet. Haven't made it yet.
So my jiu-jitsu instructor is Brazilian, and he was a professional surfer when he was in his teens. He
Wow,
actually just got back from like a 10-day trip. He goes to El Salvador with his brother, who is still
nice.
a professional. Well, I don't know if he's still, but he did it for much longer. You know, they're late 50s. But he went out to Waco and a couple years ago, and
Wow,
it was legit. But this guy, he's crazy talented. I've never surfed in my life. I've lived here 20 years.
never. Wow, that's surprising. You got to go someplace. I mean, Southern California, where you're at, there's some places that are pretty forgiving, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
go to some easy places like Central America or
Yeah.
Hawaii or someplace like that, where there's some small, gentle, forgiving,
Yeah.
not crowded situations. That's the right place to learn.
Yeah. Well,
I'm out of here. I'm out of here in a couple weeks. I'm headed to Portugal for a surf trip,
nice.
so that'll be fun.
Yeah, he's got an app. He follows it like 2 to 4 days a week. He'll leave early morning.
Yeah,
He's got an electric bike that folds, and he built racks on the side, and him and his son will go. It'll carry the boards. I mean, he's got a
what a life.
portable shower on his camper. I mean,
Yeah,
he's a surfer.
it's a life.
Oh man, so what the heck? 12 unicorns, 11 exits. So a unicorn, it's $1 billion valuation, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Most people don't touch one of those. How do you get into 12 of them?
Well,
Are you
there's
like
two.
leprechaun? Everything you touch turn to gold, or that's Midas, I
No,
know, but you get the point.
yeah. So there's some that you build and you're a part of the build from scratch. The last operating role I had, for example, as a sales leader, we did really well, timed the market pretty good, went from zero to I think well north of $100 million valuation in the first couple of years, and then since that point in time, continued to grow and somewhere in the low multiple billion-dollar valuation right now. Others are just companies that I've done some consulting for, some coaching for, people that I've helped at various stages of that growth, to becoming a unicorn. Um, and then I had a bunch of exits, as well. I'm up to 11 exits right now. Some of them are enough to buy like a Nissan Leaf. It's like a new little car or something like that. Nothing like crazy, but others, have been, fairly significant. Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty proud of my track record of who I've worked with and how I pick them a little
Yeah,
bit.
nice.
Yeah.
And while I would love to talk about unicorns and whatnot, I think most people struggle with just what do they do in the next 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Like that rubber meets the road. I mean, when you're working with teams, when you're choosing a company, what are you looking for? What is their sales floor like? How are they getting noticed, making sales so they can reach that status?
Well, I think, one thing you need to recognize is that the game is very different now than it used to be 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. If I took over a VP of sales role right now, I cannot build and manage the way that I did 20 years ago. I grew up in like a boiler room kind of environment where you're banging out 100 something calls every single day. That doesn't work anymore, right? So you have to have a much more modern grip on things. For example, people do not talk on the telephone as much as they used to. Yeah, I'd venture to say that your phone is on silent right now. my ringer is off 24/7. So nobody who calls me gets me, right? And my voicemail, I never check. My voice message literally says, "Don't bother leaving me a voicemail, just text me." Right? So the pickup rates for using the phone as a channel for sales, there's data everywhere that shows it's way down, and it's not going to come back. I got 2 teenage kids. They never use the telephone ever for any reason, right? They're not going to cold call people. You're not going to cold call them when they enter the workforce in 5 years. So that's a declining, dying channel to me. And you look at cold email, right? At first it was like, wow, this is great. You can reach anybody. And then the way humans do, we see something that works and we exploit the hell out of it, and then we kill it. All the like spam cannon kind of technology where you're emailing thousands of people at a time. Now we're all super protective of our inbox, right? We're hitting the unsubscribe button everywhere. We've got filters on different things. Nobody checks their email because we're bracing for like, is this a scam? Is this guy pitching me? What's this guy selling me, right? So you look at this landscape of like declining open and response rates, declining pickup rates on the phone, even LinkedIn as a channel, is full of more noise than ever before. So you have to ask yourself, what the heck can I do to stand out? And the answer is you got to zig when everybody else is zagging, and you got to do the opposite. So some of the things that used to work a long time ago, like writing a handwritten letter to somebody, sending them a little gift, right? Like if I'm paying attention, I see you're into jujitsu and you got an Air Force football helmet back there, right? So maybe I see somewhere on the schedule that Air Force is traveling down to San Diego somewhere and like playing somebody. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to write this guy Wes a letter. I'm going to send him 2 upper deck tickets. It won't cost me that much, right? Send him
Come
2
on,
upper deck
man. Don't be
tickets.
bagging on my
No, no,
Falcon.
no, no, I'm just saying.
Hey,
I'm
it's
a, I'm a,
true, all right, but it still hurts. All right.
yeah. I'm gonna send you a couple tickets and be like, hey, I know you've been having a hard time finding time to talk about this with your partner. Here's 2 tickets. You guys take you 45 minutes to get to the game. The football game lasts 3 hours. It takes you 45 minutes to get home. I just carved out 4.5 hours of time for you guys to talk about the problem that you're facing and whether or not our solution makes sense. How many people do something like that? Not very many by comparison to how many emails somebody gets, how many cold calls somebody gets, right? So you leverage that kind of thing. You can leverage relationships and this new sort of go to network nearbound methodology, which is a fancy way of talking about network referrals. So if Wes is trying to get a hold of somebody that I know, Wes comes to me and says, hey, Scott, you know this guy over here. I'll tell you what, if you can help me book a meeting with this guy and I close the deal, I'll break you off 10, 15, 20% of this deal. And I'm like, all right, let me see what I can do. I go to this person over here and I'm like, hey, man, I don't know if you have this problem or not, but my buddy Wes has built this tool, this solution. He solves it in this particular way. If you're open to an intro, I'd love to make one. If not, don't worry about it. No big deal. I don't want you to feel pressured. What do you say? Most people, because there's inherent trust in that relationship, they're thinking, all right, well, I trust Scott. Scott's friends with Wes. Wes must be a pretty good dude. I do kind of have this problem. Sure, okay, I'll take the meeting. And when you make intros like that, those deals right now are closing at a faster clip, shorter sales cycle, larger ACV, less pain in the neck customers, stickier, longer lasting customers, right? So I firmly believe that these sort of more human experiences and touch points are going to be the only way to really break into accounts moving forward, because traditional channels are dying and everything will be viewed as like AI and robotic and impersonal soon. So the way to stand out in the AI world is to be as human as freaking possible.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah,
It
different,
really is
very
zig when they
different.
zag. But what about, the quota carrying W-2 sales rep, sitting in the SaaS? He can't spend money on tickets for a football game. He can maybe write some handwritten notes, but is he going to be able to write enough notes to hit his quota?
I don't know. So, every industry is different, right? Maybe there's certain events that this rep can go to. Maybe there's little prospect dinners that the company will subsidize and put on for somebody. Maybe you hit the street and you go back to the old school door knocking, right? Or you drop in on events locally where you think some of your prospects might be. Maybe it's not tickets. Maybe it's a box of donuts. You know, I have a friend, Dale Dupree, who has all these creative strategies, and he'll send people an empty box of donuts, and he'll write a note on the inside box that says, "Hey Wes, sorry I ate all these donuts. I got tired of waiting for you to call me back. Give me a call back, and I'll send you, a proper one full." How much does donuts cost? I don't know, $1 or $2. I mean, listen, if you're a quota carrying rep and you're not willing to spend a couple bucks, on your own to make something happen, you might be in the wrong profession. And if you're a founder who's not willing to support your reps with a couple bucks to try some strategies like this, good luck, right? You got to help people out a little bit. The point again is you just got to get as creative as possible. Maybe send people video messages because they don't get as many. Maybe use the voice note function on LinkedIn because people don't do as many. I don't know, what the answer is for each particular person. I just know that you have to get as creative as you can right now to stand out.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree. It's just that most people are not creative. They say they are. You see the meme, the devil said, "You can't handle the storm." And I winked at the devil and said, "I am the storm." I'm like, bullshit. Very few people have I ever met the storm that know how to zig when they zag. I mean, they do what it's monkey see, monkey do. So can creativity be learned?
I don't know if the word learned is the word I would use, but I think you can empower somebody to sort of let out some of the creativity that is inherently inside of them. You can instill them with a little more confidence. You can instill them with some support. It could be in the form of budget. It could just be in the form of encouragement. You can free them from fear of, if this doesn't work, your ass is out on the street and you're out of a job or whatever. It's you got to give people room to be flexible, to be creative, knowing that some of the things we try are going to flop and it's not going to work. And that's okay. And I think a lot of people are trapped and caught in this mindset of well, if I try this and it doesn't work, I'm screwed. If I try this, I'm going to look silly. If I try this, that, and the other, right? And that's where leaders need to come in and be like, Wes, let's brainstorm some of this stuff, man. If it fails, I don't care. Because making 1,000 cold calls today with nobody picking up the phone, I already know that shit's not going to work, right? So let's try this other thing. You're good at what you do. Let's brainstorm, right? And I'm just kind of supporting and facilitating because I think not everybody is full-blown creative, but everybody has ideas, unique things that they would try if there's no repercussions or consequences, right? And we can encourage that and poach what's in there out of people. So it comes from deep within to more of the surface. So not exactly you were asking, but I think we can facilitate that development a little bit so people are willing to try some stuff.
So, I mean, you're a fractional CRO. I mean, would you show up? They got 10 salespeople. You go, "Okay, guys, here's 1,000 empty donut boxes. Go go mail them to your Dream 100. Let's go." And I'm saying it half seriously. I would love to try that.
Yeah,
but what do they do in the next 3 to 5 days until the phone starts ringing from those?
Well, they try everything else. You see, the mistake people make is they try one thing, and you're dead in the water in 2024 and beyond if you're just doing one thing. You can't only cold call. You can't only mail empty boxes of donuts. You can't only put on events. You have to try all of these different things. And like I said, the nuance is every industry is different. Every sales cycle is different, right? Those I talk to people in the real estate business and the phone still works. I talk to people trying to get a hold of Fortune 500. The phone is useless for them, right? And so you try all these different things, you look at the data, and you lean into the channels that are working and you lean out of the ones that aren't. So if I had this sales team and we decided to do this empty donut box campaign, great. What are we going to do? Sit around for the next week? No, we're going to be like, okay, what else can we try? Did you send 10 video messages today? Did you leave 20 different comments on LinkedIn on prospects posts today? Did you do some research and listen to Wes's appearance on the podcast so you know more about who he is, how he thinks, pains that he talked about, something that you can find that's relevant and personalized to capture his attention? How did you get better today? Who did you practice with? Who did you role play with? What demos did you listen to? There's a million things that people could be doing on top of you probably still need to make some calls. You still need to send some prospecting emails. You still need to update the pipeline and, get into the CRM and all this kind of stuff, right? So that's the mistake people make is they're like, oh, I'm going to pick this one channel and that's it. It's like, no, dude, you have to have an omni-channel approach and you have to think about which ones are working and do more of the shit that's working and less of the things that are not. That's intelligent prospecting in 2024.
What do you see with the sales leaders who may be stuck in old ways? I mean, I got to imagine this is probably why you're brought in. Because my experience has been sales leaders have rarely, I won't even say leaders, most were not leaders. They were managers. They were plucked from the sales team. They were not given any training. They should have remained a salesperson. Do you see that a lot? I mean, is that why you're brought in? Because they're kind of stuck in their old ways, never really had leadership management training.
Yeah, there's kind of two things. There's the companies who bring somebody like me in who have yet to build anything at all, and they need help figuring out, how do I sell this thing? What's the strategy? How do I build it to scale? How do I put the right processes in? How do I find the right people? All that kind of stuff. And then there's the other people who are like, we're stuck or we're failing. We need to fix things. We need to try something, different. We need some inspiration, some motivation or whatever. What I see most with those types of sales leaders you're talking about is fear. It's absolute fear. They are worried about losing their job if they don't hit their number. They're worried about trying something new that they have never executed themselves, and therefore they don't really know how to teach it. So they just fall back on what they did 20 years ago, right? And they're like, when I was your age, I made 200 calls a day. Just get on the phone. And they just bang the drum on these old school metrics that, some of us cared about deeply back in the day. The game has changed, man. Those things don't matter as much. Some of it maybe is a little bit of a lack of education, meaning that, they don't know what they don't know, maybe. They're not keeping up with modern sales tactics, modern sales leadership, modern sales tools. But a lot of it to me is just fear. They're stuck in inertia and status quo. They're terrified of doing something different, having it fail and suffering the consequences. But the reality is, if they just keep doing what they're doing and not changing anything, they're going to fail and suffer the consequences anyway. So they kind of need a wake-up call a little bit of like, what's really at risk here? You do nothing, you're in trouble, right? You try this other thing, what's the worst thing that can happen? You're in the same trouble that you would have been in if you kept doing what isn't working before. So what is there to lose? Not much, right?
Yeah.
But you talk about trying to run like a referral play and like a networking nearbound affiliate kind of play. You know how many sales leaders have no network online? They completely neglected building a digital network. Well, if you don't have a digital network on LinkedIn or other social platforms, you can't run that play. So how's this old school sales leader going to stand up in front of their sales team and be like, y'all need to do this referral play, right? And they're going to look at that sales leader and be like, well, you don't even do that. You don't even have the capability of doing that. What are you talking about? Right? So a little bit of knowledge gap, a little bit of fear. And
Yeah.
Resistance to evolution.
Well, it's like golf lessons. I'm making the same mistake. I go see a golf pro. He shows me how to fix it. And when I'm standing there with him, I am booming my shots and I get out under pressure. I got a whole dollar riding on this, but it's the, it's the ribbing I'm going to get from my buddies for the next 15 years. So it's a whole lot more
Yeah.
than a dollar. And I
Yeah.
go back to my old ways.
And it's the fear on your end of like failing and the lack of patience, right? You try to change your swing a little bit, you're going to get worse before you get better, usually, right? And most people are unwilling to like relearn something new and suffer through some of those pains and struggles to get to the positive outcome in the end, you know?
Well, and it's dumb, right? It's like, okay, I always slice. It's like he shows me how to fix it, but okay, and under pressure, all right. So I snap hook it. Like the result is still a bad tee
Not
shot,
good. Yeah.
but it's
That's right.
like, but it's like we think we're idiots for having a bad result for trying something new because we've always had bad results doing what we always did. But it's the devil that we know. Like, why are we so comfortable with the devil that we know?
Yeah. I don't know. Think about how willing we all are and have been to make all these cold calls our whole sales career. You know how many times nobody answered the phone, or how many times somebody hung up on you, or somebody told you to scram and get lost, right? Yeah, we keep going back to the phone and we're like, hey, it's just a numbers game, don't get frustrated. But then the first time somebody tries this like empty box of donuts play and it doesn't work, they're like, that doesn't work. I'm never
Told
doing
you,
that again.
man.
That was a waste of time. I
You're
told you that
stupid.
wasn't going to work. It's like, dude, you tried it one time. Like, what are we talking about here? Right? Go back and try it 100 more times.
Yeah.
And let's look at the data.
Right.
It's just because it's different. When people try to move away from what they're used to, they expect immediate success and results. And if they don't, they go back to what's familiar, even if what's familiar is not yielding the right outcomes for them, unfortunately. And, this is why so many startups fail. And this is why so many sales leaders fail. And this is why so many account executives fail, right? All of these things repeat themselves.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's tough to break the cycle.
So what is your surf and sales?
Serpent Sales is a micro sales conference. It was designed a little over 7 years ago to be the opposite of all the big, boring, bloated conferences that we've all gone to. Take 20 people a couple times a year down to Costa Rica, get you out of your comfort zone, out of your familiar environment, spend half a day, doing content about sales, leadership, ending, whatever you want to call it, entrepreneurship. And then the other half of the day, we hire a bunch of surf instructors locally in Costa Rica who teach people to surf who've never gone before or want some lessons. And we eat good food, have some drinks if that's your thing, go zip lining, walk through the jungle, and just kind of commune and have some fellowship and help each other solve some problems and challenges that are going on in their career. And so you end up going home, with 19 other friends and colleagues and people that are deeply now a part of your network, not scan 200 badges. Got all these people to follow up with. It's like, okay, how many meaningful relationships did you really get out of, one of those big bloated events, right? So it's for people who are looking for an alternative way to learn, kind of combining a little bit of a vacation with an educational event and a networking opportunity. And we've been holding 2 or 3 of these a year for the last 7 years, and I've sold out every single one so far. Knock on wood. I still have 5 tickets left for this November's event, but I'm hoping I can get there. And it's a blast, man. I've got a lot of people who have said it's like been very transformational for them. So yeah, it's cool idea.
Yeah,
And for me, it's like I combine a couple things that I love. I combine sales and business and entrepreneurship with surfing, right? And it's a fun little side business.
That's cool because I just saw your LinkedIn banner, and I was reading all your stuff, and I've been following you, and I mean you're super active on LinkedIn, but I just literally just saw that. I'm like, holy crap, because I've been wanting to do a jiu-jitsu conference,
There you
And
go.
it's like, and
Yeah.
I'm torn on, like, I work. When there's something to learn, like, I will grind like nobody else. And like these conferences, I'm like, I want to learn, and I've come up with a few different agendas. And like at first it was so jam packed. And as I've iterated, I'm like, okay, and floated it by people. I'm like, they need to have more fun. Like not everybody
Yeah.
that's driven
That's
is
exactly
me.
right. No, but who wants to go someplace that they've probably been before, right? San Francisco, New York, whatever, and go sit in the fucking conference room at the Marriott Hotel and listen to 9 hours worth of content all day. Nobody wants to do that. I promise you, right? So why don't we break it up? Who says that that's the way it has to be? You know, you could do a jujitsu in sales. I can barely even say the word, right? But what you do is you get a small group, 10 to 20 people, let's say, right? You get an instructor to give people lessons, could be intro level and intermediate level or whatever, right? Just some basics. So they're learning something new. They're getting out of their comfort zone. They're doing something healthy for them, something empowering as well, something that's gonna breed camaraderie and teamwork and struggle and all this kind of thing, right? You spend half a day doing that stuff, and you mix it up with, hey, let's talk about modern selling. Let's talk about how to build a consulting practice. Let's talk about how to grow your presence on LinkedIn. That is digestible, right? It's little pockets of like, learn this, take a break. Learn that, take a break. And then when everybody's together, like over dinner and drinks, everybody's just shooting the shit, talking about all this kind of stuff. And that's where the magic is, man. The magic in it is in all those in-between moments, not sitting there in a conference room with somebody lecturing you and you're, half paying attention, half checking your fantasy football team, half getting harassed by your kids who need help with their homework, even though you're out of town. And it's like, right? Got to be a better way. So that's why I built Surf and Sales
Yeah.
to be an alternative to
Have
this.
you done it the same way, like from the beginning?
We've evolved it a little bit. I think we were a little bit too content heavy the very first time and scaled that back a little bit so people have a little bit more downtime. But I've got it dialed in now, man. I rent the same 3 houses on the beach in Costa Rica. We got the same people who come cook for us, come clean for us, the same drivers pick us up, the same surf instructors come. I'm very tempted all the time to like go do surf and sales in a different spot, a different country, different part of the world or whatever. But I just keep coming back to, that's a lot of work the very first time to get all that stuff set up. And I've got all the infrastructure set up already.
Yeah.
Plus, I love going to Costa Rica. So, yeah, it's dialed in for now.
Well, you got teenagers. I mean, so you can't really bring them, huh? Do you bring the family?
But here's the pro move. The pro move for anybody listening is you tell everybody, listen, I got this work event I got to go to down in Costa Rica. Okay. And I hold these events always the couple weeks right before Thanksgiving. So the pro move is you say, I got to go to this thing right before Thanksgiving. But it's going to work out in your favor because what you're going to do is y'all are going to fly down and meet me on the last day of my event. And then we're going to stay in Costa Rica during Thanksgiving week. So we're going to have a family vacation out of the thing. Does that seem fair? And then the family and the kids are like, hell yeah, that seems fair. Get the hell out of here, Dad. We'll meet you down there. That's the pro move right there.
Dude, why don't you just do this all the time? I mean, you're making me want to learn how to surf, and I'm going to go start doing sales training in Costa Rica.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do it all the time, to be honest with you. But you can only do so many of these things, and when you're trying to sell tickets to certain events, like you got to promote them all the time. And I don't want to get online and promote things all the time, constantly be selling. I want to just help people, and I got lots of different business interests. I run 5 different companies right now, Surf and Sales being one of them. I've got a consulting business. I got Surf and Sales. I got a coaching practice. I got a real estate business. I got a venture capital firm. So I got a lot of different interests going on. But, is there a world where I think about, can I run 52 of these a year? I definitely have had that thought before.
52 sounds like work, man. I'm talking like 12 or 20.
Yeah, the most we've ever done in 1 year is 3, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
What do you think is the draw? Are there Scott fans that are attending? Are these surf fans that are attending? Are these people who just want to travel and it's a vacation? You know what I'm saying? Like what's
Yeah.
the blend you think as to why? Because like, and I asked because it's like, I'm not famous. You know, I've got a good name in the world, but I'm not famous. I'm a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm good. I'm not famous. Um, you know, I've got a good instructor that could help me in Dallas. He's a third degree black belt, but he's not famous. Uh, what's the draw that you think that people come? Maybe like the first or second. Over time, it
Yeah.
probably gets some word of mouth and probably gets easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the concept is appealing to people. I think the concept of combining learning with a little vacation in a place that's exotic and some place that people like to travel that's different. I think that's the main draw and attraction. I'm not famous. I don't other people who follow me on LinkedIn and think I have good advice and therefore want to come learn from me, sure. But I'm not Tony Robbins or somebody like that that's drawing people automatically. So the event itself, the appeal of smaller, kind of more intimate settings and abilities to network and learn from other folks, I think that just really resonates with people. And I think it makes more and more sense in the post-COVID kind of world, where, listen, we just had the Olympics in France, a month or so ago, and it's like now everybody's sick everywhere again, right? And it's like, I don't know, do I really want to go to a conference with like 50,000 people and, get somebody's cold and COVID and all this shit? Like, I don't know, it just I don't think it's as appealing as it used to be,
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah.
Right. And people are just looking for alternatives. People have
Yeah.
done all the big conference stuff.
Yeah.
And when you combine that with like some voices out there leading it that presumably people trust and pay attention to and get value from and stuff like that, I think they're at least willing to entertain the idea. And we've had a lot of people come through and say wonderful things. There's lots of good testimonials and case studies when people have questions. So that stuff obviously helps, as well.
Yeah. How did you balance the chicken and the egg there, right? At some point, you've got to plunk down some amount of cash to reserve rooms and everything else.
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly how it goes down. I mean, one of the things that I have been working to perfect over the years is shrinking the delta between idea and action. And most people have this idea and they just don't do anything about it. And I have become one of these people that has an idea and I do something about it as fast as humanly possible. So you go back to 2017 and I'm in Costa Rica on vacation with my buddy Richard and his family. And I'm literally talking trash to him saying, have fun going to that conference in Omaha and then the next one in St. Louis, because at the time he was flying around everywhere doing the speaker circuit, conferences and all this. And I'm like, that sounds fucking miserable. And so I was like, how come nobody has a conference in a cool place like Costa Rica? And he's like, I don't know, Scott, why don't you build one? And I said, well, maybe I will, but it would be a lot easier if I had some help. Why don't you do it with me? And he's like, all right, let's see what happens. So that was Thanksgiving 2017. By January, I had plunked down 25 grand to rent these villas and hire the drivers and, get the food sorted out and costs of surf instructor, all the costs, right? It's like 25 grand all in, right? And I'm like, okay, here we go. The worst possible thing that can happen is I end up in Costa Rica with my friend Richard and we just have nothing to do and we just surf for 2 weeks. So that would be an expensive surf trip, right? But I'm thinking to myself, there's worse things that can happen, right? So I have lost the ability to fear. The worst thing that could happen to me in that situation is actually not that bad. And I've been through hell in my life. I spent 4 years in the hospital in my 20s fighting for my life. I've had 9 major surgeries, 4 emergency life-saving surgeries. I got hooked on opioids while I was in the hospital. I had to kick off a dope. I've been through fucking hell. You think I care about, people not coming to my event? No. Think about the hardest thing that you've ever been through in your whole entire life, right? That's not a weakness of any kind. That is a superpower. That superpower should liberate you from the fear of consequences. You think I cared about missing my quota or somebody dangling the job over me? Scott, if you don't hit your number, you're going to get fired. Fuck you. I'll find another job. What do I care? Right? That's my attitude about it. So I plunked down the money, put the word out there. Luckily for me, I had a decent sized following on LinkedIn at the time, and so did Richard. So we got some, noise. Pretty well connected. We figured out a way to get some sponsors. Before you know it, $100,000 of revenue, minus $25K of expenses, $75,000 worth of profit, cut 3 ways because we have another partner who helps with some things. Personally, I made like $35,000 to go surf. That's not a bad business, right? None of that would have happened if I didn't take that initial risk, right?
How far out did you book it? So, so you say January, you put the money down. All right. So you gave yourself.
The first event was held in March. I don't remember the exact days, but it was March.
60
so you're talking
70.
about idea Thanksgiving of 2017, execution of first event March of 2018.
Yeah,
5 months, 4 months.
But the go, no go was
January.
about 60 days, right? I mean, you put the money down in January, and by March, 60, 75 days, somewhere in there, you're pulling this off.
Pull the trigger.
And who was attending? Was it people you knew? Was it strangers?
A little bit of both. There's people I had worked with before and had some kind of previous relationship with. There's other people who I didn't know at all other than LinkedIn. There was a couple people I didn't even know from LinkedIn at all. But you've got CEOs and founders, you've got VPs of sales. I've had people in RevOps, people in customer success, people who run their own small businesses, account executives, SDRs. So anybody, we've now even had CTO and a head of product who have nothing to do with sales, but they wanted to learn more about sales because they thought it would help them, in their career moving forward. So it's really for anybody. And for those saying, well, I don't know how to surf, whatever, 90% of the people who come have never surfed before and do not know how to surf. Right? And I picked a specific beach in a specific location that's very beginner friendly, and we cater to that kind of thing. And like I said, part of it is just trying something new, man, and getting out of your comfort zone. Right.
All right, man. I got 1,000 more questions, but you got a hard stop. So I am. I'm linking to you on LinkedIn. I'm linking to your surfandsales.com.
Great.
So this
Appreciate
is cool.
That.
Hey, and look, can you keep Austin weird, but like not so weird? Maybe make Austin less weird. Can you wear that hat next time?
I'll work on that for you.
All right, man. Scott, Leese, thanks for taking the time, man. It's great catching up with you.
All right, Wes, thanks for having me.
All right, man. Have a good night.